So what is going to be the consequence and impact of these stress tests on the real estate market for buyers and sellers? In today's video, stress tests are looking to be increased by June 1st. What does this mean for the Toronto and GTA real estate market? We'll break it down. Hello everyone, this is Sam from SaberiSixRealEstate and Remax Realtron Realty. As always, you can find my contact information in the description box with regards to my Gmail, my Instagram, and my office address. Feel free to get in touch with me with any questions you may have with regards to the Toronto real estate market, GTA real estate market, or if you just want to chat. Furthermore, feel free to subscribe, comment, rate, and review. Your support in that regard, if you wish to do so, is much appreciated. Obviously, you're not obliged to do so whatsoever, and you're free to just watch the video. Anyways, let's get into the topic of today's video, which is OSFI proposing higher than current stress test levels for mortgages. What does this mean? If we're going to break down what the concept of stress test is in very simple terms first, before we break down the news and what the impact are, I would explain it as such. A mortgage stress test is a mortgage rate that is higher than your actual rate that you will be paying, whatever that rate is, but the approval or disapproval goes based on that fictional or hypothetical rate in order to make sure that you can actually make those payments if rates were to increase in the future up to that hypothetical rate. Basically, this means that your capital, so your income, has to be high enough and your debt has to be low enough to be able to pay your mortgage at a higher rate than you're actually getting approved for or actually paying on an annual basis. Current average is 4.79%. Let's say you get approved for 2.5%, but the lender is actually seeing if you would be able to afford 4.79. OSFI is proposing to increase this percentage to 5.25%. So what is going to be the consequence and impact of these stress tests on the real estate market for buyers and sellers? Well, I'm going to break them down, and just remember at all times that this is just on average, right? Your particular scenario very much so makes a difference, right? When I sit down with clients, I see how much down they're working with, or how much capital they have, how much equity they have, what their personal goals are besides their financial goals, if they're first-time buyers or if they're investors. All that really much so makes a difference, but this advice and these consequences that I will be explaining are on an average basis, not knowing anything particular about a specific buyer or seller. So in order to project what may happen, let's look at what happened initially in 2018 when these stress tests came into effect. They had an impact of cooling down the market, but prior to it actually coming to an effect, so when it was announced, there was a frenzy of buying and purchasing from buyers before they get locked on to these stress tests. So the market actually got a bit hotter from the date of the announcements of the stress test to the actual date of it coming to an effect, and that's, common sense would dictate why. A lot of people saw their window of opportunity, a lot of buyers saw their window of opportunity getting shorter and shorter and shorter. And one last key point before we get into the consequences of this on the real estate market, the Toronto real estate market and the GTA real estate market for both condominiums and freehold properties, is that this would apply to uninsured mortgages. So this would only apply to individuals, insofar as I understand it, individuals who would be putting down more than 20%. So we're talking about people who are putting out 30%, 40%. In terms of buyers who are operating with anywhere from 35 to 40% down, I would suggest, if you are currently looking in the real estate market to buy, as many of my clients are, many of whom are not, right? A lot of my buyers are planning on buying in 2022. Point being, if you are a current buyer whose timeline is from today to, let's say, September, I would suggest that you probably should, with your real estate agent, try to make the best purchase for you prior to the date of this coming into effect, which, as I said previously, would be June 1st. And once again, these are for buyers who are working with 30% to 40% capital. This would not affect first-time home buyers much, because most likely first-time home buyers are working with 15 to 20% down. For sellers, it's a little less dramatic, but nonetheless, sellers, on the other hand, have to weigh two options. The two options go as such. In one hand, and this is once again putting aside what type of property you have, because if you have a freehold property versus a condo, much different story in both cases. There's a lot of differences, but on average, for any property you might be selling as a seller, on one hand, you'll have a bigger buyer base before June if the same frenzy that occurred in 2017 occurs again, as I will predict, with a lot of buyers seeing their window of opportunity closing and trying to buy before these come into effect. But with that option, you are slightly running the risk of being part of too much inventory, where if a lot of sellers think like you simultaneously, they list their property for sale, then buyers, although there's not going to be more buyers on the market, your property won't be much so differentiated, because there will be a lot of properties up for sale, so that oversupply can work against you in a certain way. And once again, although there's a lot of buyers, at the same time, due to the oversupply, those buyers now have a lot of options, and that kind of works against sellers sometimes. On the flip side, you have the other option, is waiting for after June, waiting for the winter market, potentially even as far as the winter market, where the number of inventory as a seasonal thing goes down, and so does the number of buyers according to this, because once again, this will close the window of opportunity of a lot of purchasers who are working with more than 20% down. So there'll be less buyers available on the market, and the number of transactions will be lower, and the days on market will be higher. However, there will be less inventory at the same time. So if you decide to list your property for sale and you do have some sort of patience, you can potentially differentiate yourself more from other inventory on the market because there's less of it, and sell it for a higher price. Once again, as I always have to preface, these are just general examples and general theories and projections, right? When I work with clients on an individual basis, their specific case very much so impacts how we go about things. However, at a general level, this would be your second option. And at the end of the day, this is Toronto real estate, right? And the Toronto real estate market, especially for freehold properties, is ever increasing in market value because at the end of the day, naturally, inherently, freehold properties are more apt to do so because of the land associated with it, whereas condominiums, although yes, they do appreciate as part of the crazy Toronto real estate market we are part of, there is no land, at the end of the day, associated with a condominium unit. So that's why freehold properties always increase more in market value. Point being, in my opinion, this has more of a consequence for buyers, whereas it does have an impact for sellers. Do not get me wrong. Sellers have to do their due diligence with the real estate agents and time the market correctly as to the best of their capabilities. However, if you do your due diligence, you're better off as a seller in the real estate market we are part of in terms of this increase in stress tests. Whereas with buyers, this poses to be far more consequential for them and their buying. Anyways, that's a quick rundown. Let me know if you have any further questions of things I didn't cover in this video with regards to this topic. Feel free to ask it in the comments or send me an email. Anyways, please subscribe, comment, rate, and review, and thank you for watching.